Good afternoon, this is Charlie, and this is my program for MS 548 Advanced Programming and AI. What this particular program does is facial recognition of known faces that are saved in files, and it'll compare webcam input to match against those known faces, and if any of those are known, it'll return. So we're using face recognition CV2 to control the capture, and then we're using OS to set the folder, and finally NumPy to do the calculations. So in this first line, what we're doing is we're capturing our video capture settings, and we've got 0 as the default. If we end up needing to change this, if you've got a laptop or something along those lines, it might be 1 if you have an external webcam. So that's the video capture. The next thing we have are the instructions, which will display to the user at the top of the screen to show them how to exit. We're setting some known facial images, and we're naming those by files that I've got saved in the folder. And we've got, in light of our election, we've got Biden, Trump, and I've got myself on there as the third party. And so we set those in as known facial encodings, those measurements, another array for the names, and then we're going to go ahead and initialize all of our variables, which are in this section here. And the important ones are the scale factor as well as the scale reverse. The scale factor allows us to process a smaller version of the frame, which allows us to save some computing power. And then the scale reversal is what allows us to get back to the normal scale when we actually are trying to present our results. And then the next one is the processing every X frames. What I'm doing there is I'm telling the software only to look at every 15 frames when it's doing facial recognition. Now that seems like that's a lot of frames, but to the eye it still seems pretty quick. I've played with that number all the way down to every 4 frames, and I've gone all the way up to every 60 or 128, and it doesn't seem to make a ton of difference, but it does speed it up. This next while true, what it's doing here is it's getting a frame of video, it's resizing it, changing the colors, and then it's processing it by finding face locations, encodings for each individual face. It's finding a name if there's a match, and if it can't find a name, it'll be unknown. And if it does find one, it's going to go ahead and use the measurements for the known faces. So there I am showing the unknown, and then it's going to use the facial distances and the set up an index for which ones are the best matches on those distances for the known faces that are in the files. The next section is the process counter. So this is what I was talking about. It's going to go through this each time it runs through, and it's going to append a 1 to it each time through. And it's going to get to that every X frames, and when it hits that number 15, then it'll go ahead and move to processing the frame and resetting the counter. The next section is about displaying our results. So the first thing we're doing is setting the frame of the rectangle that's going to go around the face. In order to do that, we have to reverse the scale that we lowered before, otherwise our scale on that box will be too small. The next stuff we have using the CV2 is to set the rectangles around the face, and we're using those last top, bottom, left, right. We're making a rectangle frame, which is the filled in nameplate as well as the name and the instructions. And then finally we combine all of that together into the CV image show, and we're showing the frame. and that frame is a composite of all of those items before it. Lastly, if we press the Q key, it's going to allow us to go ahead and quit the program by releasing the video and killing the window. So we can go ahead and run this program to show how it works. So we've got our, and you'll notice that the audio isn't going to match up with my mouth because first time I recorded this, I missed the audio, but if we cover our face, we're going to get unknown up until it gets enough landmarks to know who it is. What I'm testing here is whether or not if I were wearing a mask, it would be able to see me and recognize that it's me. If I cover my nose and mouth, it has a little harder time, but it still seems to be able to get it at least a good portion of the frames. The next thing is we're going to look at our other known faces, which are our candidates. So there's Joe Biden, and you can see that box travels along with him. If I move him out of the way, it'll find me again. And it'll do multiple faces at a time, as long as it recognizes that it's a face within the screen. If we choose another image of Joe Biden, it's going to do the same thing. It's taking the measurements of the faces, so the exact look or expression don't seem to give it a hard time. If we go to Donald Trump, we can see that it's able to recognize him based on our known, and even if I twist the image, it's still able to realize that it's him. Sometimes when we have different expressions or not looking right on, it has a little bit harder time, like it does in this case, but it's still able to zero in on the fact that that's who it is. And there's a different photo that's more straight on and less of a strange expression. Therefore, it does work. And I'm trying to do another one of myself, and what I was trying to get is to see if it would recognize the two faces in the image are me, and it's having a hard time because of the lighting on the phone. However, I think I do get it toward the end there once there we go. So right at the very end, it is able to do it. So we also have the press Q to exit, which allows us to kill the program. And then that's the demonstration. If there's any questions, please leave them in the comments.